Well, crap.
Hey everybody, this is going to be my first update in like 3 months. Um, a lot of stuff has gone on. So I'll show you the one bit of progress I made on my kit. And by now, all of you should know that Vans has told a lot of us to stop building while they figure out what's going on with all of these parts they sent us that were manufactured with lasers to either punch holes in or cut. There's a lot of information and I don't know it all yet, but I'm going to go over my situation with everyone and show you what I'm dealing with. Thankfully, it's not as, at the moment, many parts as I thought it was going to be, although the parts that they say definitely replace, that list is real small compared to the list of parts that they're testing. So, like, we still don't know about all the parts and if they're going to be able to let those go or have us replace them. I have built my vertical stabilizer, and I'll show you that here in a sec. We'll talk about it whenever I go into my trip to AirVenture. But thankfully, I think none of those parts are affected. And the rudder, though, I mean, I went and picked the rudder spar up, and right off the bat, it was pretty gnarly. Like, I will definitely not be using that part. I'll show you why here in a sec, but we'll talk about the pages at Vans I'm keeping an eye on, and the one big thing that I am worried about that I may have a part that may need to be replaced. I'm not going to be happy about that. Vans did say that the parts will be replaced for free if they were defective, and if you mess up any parts, taking apart anything you may have built, they'll replace those parts for greatly reduced amount. I'm not interested in that because I'm a blue collar guy. These things are asinine as far as how much they cost to build these days, and I've bitched about that before in the past. Just in case you don't want to go back and watch my other boring videos, slow build Vans RV-8 kit, $37,000. You might as well plan on, if you go cheap, around another $100,000 to get that damn thing in the air. Engine prices and propeller and some things have come down in the last few months. Not where I'd like them to be, but thankfully a year ago I took some action to kind of help me whenever I get to that part, and it's working out pretty good so far. So I haven't built anything since May. I haven't worked on it. I hurt my back in May. That lasted like 3 weeks. And then June was all working overtime trying to pay for 2 vacations, very, very short vacations, but also this stuff. And my oldest faux niece is about to start her flight training, and I'm paying for half of that. So we had a big payment to make in July for that as well. So after my overtime finished up in June and I started vacation season, the night before I was supposed to come back from our scuba trip is when I got the letter from Vans, an email this long talking about, stop building your plane, we got a problem. And didn't really matter. Came home, not even a week went by, and I flew to Oshkosh, Wisconsin. Well, Chicago, then drove to Wisconsin. So anyway, yeah, I came back and I've just not bothered with it because I walked out here and picked up one part that they had mentioned, and right away knew that I have a little bit of a problem. So I'm going to wait for them to put the rest of that list out. I think there's still a lot of things I can safely continue building whenever it's not 104 degrees in my garage at 6:30 in the evening. But whenever it cools off, I'll get back to building what I can. I think Vans is going to post something at the beginning of September, a portal where we can request new parts. I'll show you the sites that I'm keeping an eye on, everything here, in case you haven't bothered. Today's the first day I felt like really digging into it because it's aggravating. I mean, it's a big project financially for me, and I don't want to deal with this stuff. So, but I've had years of training of having to work too hard for everything that I have. So I'm not taking it as a bad omen that I should stop building. And, you know, buy a really nice flight simulator. But part of the things that I am grateful for is that the pace that I'm going is kind of slow, and some good things have happened because of that, like the Service Bulletin 36. I've already got my parts incorporated in here because of that, and thankfully I wasn't too far along where I had to really take anything apart. So now we're dealing with the laser stuff, and I've only got the vertical together. All of my horizontal parts are primed and ready to rivet. So yeah, let's talk about this laser cut part problem. So, all right, hopefully this comes out okay on the computer. If you go to the news page right here in community on vans, you go to community and then down to news, and it'll give you information with some links to where you need to go. So the first thing I brought up was this nifty little presentation, 11 slides here about identifying laser cut holes and punched holes, and it's pretty good. I've seen some things in here that are definitely wrong with my parts. And then I can easily recognize these beautifully punched holes here. They're way better than laser. The one time lasers really, really suck. So I'm just going to hold off on buying lasers for my pet sharks. Anyway, then the next thing I'm keeping an eye on is this affected parts list here. So it's 32 pages, and it is by aircraft and kit. So I'm on the empennage kit, and here my biggest problems right now are the it says elevator trim spar and the trim spar. So I have those parts. It says right off the bat here, status replace these things. Now this is E606 PP and E607 PP, E standing for elevator. So that's these two parts right here, my 607 and my 606. Now, I'm going to call and find out because these holes look punched, and I had been told that if it comes with this blue Mylar over it, that's a Vans part and not a laser part. So that's just what I heard through the grapevine. So I'll be asking about that. My elevator spars are also on that list, and they are covered in blue Mylar as well. I don't see any problems with them. So I'll have to ask about those as well. My rotor spar, now this is the fun one. 802 PP. That's this piece of metal here. It came with no Mylar on it. And hopefully it shows up here. I'll tilt it. Those two holes are like scorched. The metal is just burnt there. And the ones directly across on the other side are as well. I mean, to give you some perspective, I mean, that's, and there's burn marks all along the metal here, just in different random spots. There's burn marks, so that part's going to get replaced. I will definitely not use that. You'll see there's a whole bunch of parts that are still currently in testing, and we'll get an update on those. So anything to do with a part that's not been covered in blue Mylar or is on that list, I'm not building. I'm not doing anything. These parts over here are for my wing. Those are fuel tank baffles, and they're bad. I already tell you that. They're bad. And then the holes here, they're messed up as well. The burn marks on them are very subtle. Like, I know the camera won't pick them up, but if you take them out in the light, you'll see them. Plus, the holes have this little notch in the side where the laser, I guess, started and stopped. So, like, I don't even want to use these parts at all. So they'll just get replaced. All right, so these are the aileron nose ribs. They're on the list to just outright replace, but man, I can't see any indication that these are laser parts. Now, a lot of these parts on the list were switched over back, to the original method, like says limited runs, then converted to punch press during this period. So, I'm assuming that if I have a part on here that it's calling bad, it may not be. So fuel tank baffles, it just says straight up replace them. That's those big pieces right there. They're out. This is right here, parts produced on laser through June 2023. Then this list down here is your either or list. It's produced on laser and limited runs, then converted. So we'll see. So here it says for the elevator spar that this was limited runs, but it's listed as replace. That's the E702, which is these. And I'm guessing I won't have to replace them. So until that list is updated, I'm just not going to do anything. I mean, it's like I said, it's still 104 degrees out here in the garage, and it is no fun. I had a busy summer, so I opted not to try to air condition the garage. Next year it will be though. So, but that's where I'm at. With all of this said, this is the thing that I'm most worried about. So this is my horizontal stabilizer spar. It's built. It's ready to rivet with the skins and all the other structure. So if you look down here, it says right here 603 pp horizontal rear spar. Just replace it. And I'm worried about that because I know for a fact that these two channels, that's the same thing. They're just one's on one side, one's on the other. They were not covered in blue mylar. Now I didn't see any scorching on this part like I did this one, and none of my dimples seem to be cracked, but I think sometimes the crack doesn't show up until you smash a rivet in them. I've seen pictures like that. So I'm worried about that. I'm gonna have to do some digging and find out if these things are usable, if there's any way they know. There were some things on here that were kind of annoying whenever I got them, and I asked people in vans about it. Along this side of it, there were scuff marks, like perfectly straight line scuff marks all the way down the length of both of those parts on the edges near the radius. There were little tabs in the metal where it looked like they were the ones described for the old way of doing it, not the laser. So I'm hopeful that these parts are good, because I don't want to redo any of that. Plus, I've already match drilled and dimpled them to my skins, which are also dimpled, and I do not want to try to match drill new spar channels with dimpled skin. I just don't want to do it. But it's a snowball effect. The other thing it tells you is that the horizontal stab front spar parts, the HS702s, just to outright replace them. Now those parts I know for a fact had blue mylar on them, so I don't think that I'm going to worry about that, and that would be these parts here. I've looked at all the dimples very close in the light, and there's no cracking on them, so I'm hoping those parts are going to be good. But the horizontal stabilizer is just not getting assembled. It's just not going to happen. So if you have any problems with your laser parts and stuff, let me know. If you happen to be watching this and you heard something I didn't hear, or you have a question, let me know. These parts back here are on my list as well, but again, they're for the flap, and I want to say they're a flap spar, but there's a part number. But see, they're covered in blue mylar, and they look like they were press punched, not lasered. So I think at the moment you're looking at the gist of all of my parts, and it also lists these two parts for the elevator trim assembly, but they're covered in blue mylar, and they are clearly not laser punched. That is absolutely machine punched, because it's got a nice smooth round hole there with a burr on the back. So I'm pretty sure those are fine. Now we just have to worry about all this yellow stuff to be sorted there, and there's a couple things that right there. I'm not sure what the deal is with the undersized hole in the blue. There's some that say no holes in part, so I'll have to figure that out later. Going to waste a lot of time figuring out stuff that I don't want to figure out, but you know, that's building an airplane anyway. I am not sponsored by Rain, but by golly, they ought to. So let's talk about the one piece that I did build. This is my vertical stabilizer. I would say that it came out pretty darn good. I'm happy with it. Really, the only thing I'm not happy with is, you know, I just had to go and cut my blue Mylar with the soldering iron like all the other people. And now I just have these little lines in the middle. You can't even feel them. And I know they'll be gone whenever it's sanded for paint prep. But I'm actually really happy with how this thing came out. Even though it was a little bit aggravating, just some simple things like, you know, I want you to tell me which direction the rivets go. But a lot of times Vans just doesn't do it. And here's another fun little thing I did at Oshkosh. I went and looked at every dang RV-8 that I could find in 2 days. That's all I spent there was 2 days, the first two. And I was a little bit worried because I did the practice kit and I got a DRDT2 dimpler and I used it on the practice kit and this. And, you know, you can probably see there's a little waviness here with the rivets and the metal. And I had some people telling me that I needed to buy that old C-frame dimpler where you put the part there and then you whack it a couple times with a hammer, which, God dang, that sounds just absolutely annoying as hell to me. So just to figure out how I felt about this, I walked around and looked at all these RV-8s and I went straight to their vertical stabilizers. And it's pretty funny because I would say so many of them were exactly like this. And while they came out like this, which if you run your finger on here, you can't even feel it. So I'm happy with it. I'm going to leave it. But just like I was looking at that to validate my situation, the practice kit. When I built that, I used my DRDT2 dimpler, and I mean, those dimples in the skin are so flat, just like all of the other parts of the plane that I saw up there, all the elevators, flight control, or the flight controls, the stabs, all of it was nice and flush. And like this is perfectly good right here. So I don't think that it's going to be an issue. I don't know why the verticals look like that. I'm not an engineer, and I don't like to think about things. I want to use my brain as little as possible these days because I'm 52 now and I'm close to death. I'm pretty sure you know how it is. Anyway, so that would be my vertical, and I'm happy with it, and it's going to be a usable part. And I mentioned it before a couple videos ago, but build that first. If you get a empennage kit, just skip the horizontal stuff and build this. It'll give you some dang near instant gratification. It's so easy. Just do it. I went up to Oshkosh, flew into O'Hare for the first time. Fantastic airport. As soon as I got off the airplane, I got my rental car and I drove straight the opposite direction of Wisconsin to the Science Museum up there because I've always wanted to see that U-505 submarine, and I went and saw it and I enjoyed it. The thing is way bigger than I thought. It's fantastic. It's the only thing I looked at in the museum, and then I got in the rental car and drove 3.5 hours up to Oshkosh, and a miracle happened. I drove across Chicago twice and I didn't get murdered a single time. That's awesome. I didn't even have my gun with me. So, Oshkosh, fantastic. I went 25 years ago and I only went 2 days, and even back then it was a bad decision. Same thing this year. I I just looked around at airplanes that I went up there to see. I paid almost no attention to the air show. I hit as many vendors as I could. Um, I met Flight Chops, Steve, and had a nice little talk with him. But beyond that, man, I was up there by myself, doing my own thing, not bothering anybody. Stayed with a really nice couple up there that was right across the freeway from the airport. They gave me the most comfortable bed, fed me great food, and the convenience was just unbelievable. So next year, Oshkosh, I will be there for all of the days, for sure. So hopefully I'll have time to meet more people and see more airplanes. For all of you RV owners that were there and were either by your airplane or didn't cover your canopy so that I could look in there and get some ideas, thank you very much. I got no problem with all the rest of the people that want to cover their canopies. It was hot up there. I don't blame you, but mostly all I wanted to see was like the inside of the cockpits, because I wanted to make some decisions this year about equipment in there that I may need to work extra hard to acquire, because I'm not just rolling in dough here. And I didn't get to see too many cockpits, but I did get to see my favorite RV-8 ever, that belongs to Skyrunner from Germany, because he flew over again. Unfortunately, I didn't get to meet him, but I got to look at his airplane and see a few things that I didn't know that he had done to him that I am very interested in doing. So if you haven't seen Skyrunner's channel, he has got some amazing RV-8 videos, and it is worth the watch if you want to see what an RV-8 is capable of. He's a 747 captain or pilot in Germany, and he's flown it to America and halfway to America, like 2.5 times now, at least that I know of. And the plane still looks absolutely beautiful. So I'm bummed that I didn't get to run into him and, pester the crap out of him with a bunch of dumb questions and everything. But, I'll stalk him next year if he comes. So, I think that'll wrap up this update, because there's just nothing else going on. Anyway, I'll get back to doing some building here when it cools off. Like I said, it's just a mere 104 degrees right now. Oh, it's only 6:10. Anyway, we'll keep the van's light shining and see what happens.